You are almost impossible to manipulate, and you don't even know it. Let me ask you something before we even get started. Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling like something was off? Like someone just tried to play you, but somehow it didn't work? Like you saw through something that nobody else in the room seemed to notice? If that's happened to you, even once, there's a very specific reason for it. And today, I'm going to show you exactly what that reason is. Because here's what most people don't realize. There is a small group of people, and I mean genuinely small, we're talking maybe 5 to 10% of the population, who are nearly impossible to manipulate. Not because they're paranoid, not because they don't trust anyone, not because they're cold or robotic or antisocial, but because they have 5 very specific psychological traits that work together like an invisible force field around their mind. And in the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through all 5 of them. Pay close attention to number 5 especially, because it is so powerful that professional manipulators can detect it within seconds of meeting you and immediately think, not this one, I'm going somewhere else. Let's get into it. Trait number 1. You don't need anyone's approval to make important decisions. Okay, I know what you're thinking. You're already nodding along going, yeah, that's me, I don't care what people think. But hold on. Before you give yourself that medal, I need to ask you one genuinely uncomfortable question, and I really want you to think about it honestly. How many times this week, just this week, did you change what you were about to say because you thought, what will they think of me if I say this? How many times did you hold back an opinion, soften a statement, or just stay quiet because you were worried about being judged? If it happened more than once, I've got news for you. You don't fully have this trait yet, and that's completely okay. The vast majority of people don't. Here's the thing. Most of us are psychological chameleons. We adjust, we adapt, we shift our colors depending on who's in the room. And honestly, that's not weakness, that's biology. Our brains are literally wired to seek social acceptance, because for thousands of years, being rejected by your group meant death. So the desire to fit in isn't a character flaw, it's evolution. And this is the critical part. If you truly have this first trait, your brain doesn't operate that way. You can make a major life decision without needing someone to tell you it's okay. You can sit alone in a room without feeling an aching emptiness. You can be the only person in a group who holds a different opinion and not feel the urge to cave just to keep the peace. You know what signs to look for. People with this trait tend to start projects without waiting for external validation. They end relationships that don't serve them without needing a committee's approval. They change careers, move cities, make bold choices. And they do it from the inside out, not the outside in. And here's why this is such an enormous defense against manipulation. Manipulators operate like radar systems. They're constantly scanning for your need for approval. The second they detect it, the game is over, because now they can control you through the fear of rejection. They can make you do things you don't want to do, just by threatening to withdraw their acceptance. But if you don't depend emotionally on their approval, you've just sealed the front door. There's no way in. The manipulation dies before it even begins. Trait number 2. You use silence as a psychological weapon. Picture this. You're at a family dinner. Someone at the table throws a passive-aggressive comment your way. Something designed to embarrass you, throw you off balance, get a reaction out of you. Everyone at the table quietly turns to watch what you'll do. Most people do one of three things. They immediately defend themselves. They fire back with sarcasm. Or they start nervously over-explaining themselves, stumbling over their words, trying to justify their existence. But not you. You pause. 5 seconds of pure silence. You breathe. You observe. You process. And then, only if you decide it's worth responding to at all, you answer from a place of complete, unshakable calm, like an emotional sniper, precise, controlled, devastating. Here's what you need to understand about manipulators. They absolutely hate silence. Why? Because they need your emotional reaction as fuel. They need to see you nervous. They need to see you angry or flustered or on the defensive. That information is what they use to control you. Without a reaction, they have no data. Without data, they have no power. Now, and this part is crucial, using silence doesn't mean you're suppressing your emotions. That would be toxic and exhausting. What you're actually doing is something much more sophisticated. You feel the emotion, you acknowledge it, and then you choose your response rather than just automatically reacting. That's not robotic. That's mastery. Let me give you an example. Someone sends you this message. I thought we were close, but I guess we're really not. Classic guilt trip manipulation. They're trying to make you feel bad, get you scrambling to fix it, to prove yourself, to give them control. The average person responds, "Of course we're close. I've just been really busy lately. I'm so sorry. Let me explain." And just like that, they've won. You handed over all your power. The person with this second trait, they respond, "I understand you feel that way." That's it. No explanation, no defense, no drama. The manipulator just ran out of ammunition. If you recognize yourself in that description, I want you to understand something. Your brain has developed a defense mechanism that most people don't develop until their 40s or 50s, if ever. Trait number 3. Your brain is a human lie detector. Quick question. Have you ever just known that something was wrong with a person or a situation before anything specific happened? Like you had no concrete evidence, nothing you could point to, but something in your gut was screaming, "This doesn't add up." That's not anxiety. That's not paranoia. That is high-level social intelligence operating in real time. Here's what's actually happening inside your brain. You are unconsciously running a constant comparison program. Words versus actions. Promises versus behavior. What someone says versus how they say it. Body language versus tone of voice. You are processing hundreds of microsignals simultaneously and cross-referencing them against each other. Most people only catch obvious contradictions. They notice when someone said they'd show up and then didn't. But someone with this third trait catches the subtle stuff. You notice when someone's jaw is slightly tense while they're telling you, "Everything's fine." You notice when someone has promised something 15 times, but somehow it never happens. You notice when a person's communication pattern shifts slightly, even if you can't immediately explain what changed. This trait functions like an early warning system. While most people spend months, sometimes years, before realizing someone was manipulating them all along, you tend to pick it up in weeks, sometimes days. And the reason this is so protective is simple. It allows you to exit toxic situations before you've invested too much time, energy, and emotion. Before the damage is done. Before it gets complicated. Your internal alarm goes off early enough that you can simply walk away. Trait number 4. No is a complete sentence. All right, this one is going to sting a little bit, so I want you to just sit with it for a second. Imagine someone asks you for an unreasonable favor. Person A responds like this: "Oh, gosh. I mean, I have a few things going on this week, but if you really need me, I could probably try to rearrange some things, although it would be pretty complicated, and I'm not sure I'd be able to follow through on everything else. But if it's really important to you, then maybe we could figure something out." Person B responds like this: "I can't. Period. That's it." If you are person B, you possess something that a staggering number of adults never develop in their entire lives: the ability to set a clear boundary without guilt. You can say no without writing a 5-paragraph essay justifying it. You can decline without apologizing for having a life. You can hold a boundary, and here's the key part: you don't spend the next 3 days feeling guilty about it. Let me tell you why this is such a devastating defense against manipulation. The manipulator's primary tool is guilt. Their entire process works like this. They make a request. They expect you to feel bad for saying no. You cave because of that guilt, and now they have control over you. The whole system depends on you feeling guilty. If you don't have that automatic guilt response, their entire strategy collapses. It's like trying to pick a lock on a door that doesn't exist. And here's what healthy limits actually sound like: "I won't be able to make it. That topic isn't up for discussion. I've already made my decision." Notice what's missing from all of those: an apology, a justification, a lengthy explanation. And here's the bonus: the thing that makes this truly powerful. If you can set a reasonable boundary, and you don't particularly care if someone gets annoyed by it, you are practically impenetrable. Because professional manipulators test you exactly once. If the test fails, they immediately move on to someone easier. That sounds cold, I know, but it is the truth. Trait number 5, your brain questions everything automatically. This is the big one. This is the trait that, when combined with the other 4, makes you almost completely immune to manipulation. And it's this: you don't believe things just because someone tells them to you. Now, before you say, "That's just being paranoid," no, it's not. What I'm describing is something far more subtle and sophisticated than distrust. It's this: when someone tells you something, your brain automatically runs it through a filter. Does this make sense? Is there evidence for this? Does this match what I've seen with my own eyes? Is this person's authority actually relevant here? Your brain doesn't automatically accept a claim just because the person saying it has a title, or speaks confidently, or everyone else around you seems to be nodding along. You quietly process first. You evaluate. And only then, if it checks out, do you accept it. The fascinating thing is that this process is largely unconscious. You're not sitting there formally analyzing every statement you hear like a scientist. It just happens. Your brain simply doesn't absorb unexamined ideas. Here's the example that I think perfectly illustrates how devastating this trait is for manipulators. A manipulator says, "If you really loved me, you'd do this for me." A normal, undefended brain hears that and thinks, "I do love them. I need to prove it. I'll do what they're asking." A brain with this 5th trait hears that and thinks, "Wait, that premise is false. Love is not measured by compliance. Rejected." That brain identified the manipulation attempt in approximately 0.3 seconds. Game over. And here's why this matters so much on a deeper level. Sophisticated manipulation doesn't work by forcing you to do things. It works by first making you believe a false idea. Once you believe the false idea, everything that follows seems completely logical. If you accept that love means doing whatever someone asks, then suddenly you'll do anything they ask. Because in your mind, you're just being loving. But if you never accept the false premise in the first place, the entire trap collapses before it's even built. Signs that you have this trait. You often think that doesn't make sense when someone tells you something incoherent. You're not automatically impressed by credentials or authority. You want to see the actual reasoning. You ask for evidence rather than just taking things on faith. Logical fallacies physically bother you, almost like nails on a chalkboard. So where does this leave you? Let's bring this home. You just heard 5 traits: independence from approval, emotional silence, pattern detection, guiltless boundaries, and automatic critical thinking. Each one of these is a layer of psychological armor. Individually, each one protects you. Together, they make you nearly untouchable. And here's what I think is the most important thing I can leave you with. None of these traits make you cold. None of them make you incapable of love, or connection, or warmth. In fact, and this might surprise you, the people who have these traits tend to build the deepest, most honest, most authentic relationships of anyone. Because they can't be faked out. Because the people around them know that any love, loyalty, or respect they receive is completely genuine, not manufactured through guilt or fear or manipulation. It's real, all of it. So if you recognized yourself in some, or even all, of these traits today, I want you to hear this clearly. That is not something to be ashamed of. That is something to be deeply, quietly proud of. The world has enough people who can be pushed around. It needs more people who can't. And if there are traits here you don't have yet, the fact that you're watching this, thinking this hard about it, means you're already building them. Now go be impossible to manipulate.